So these three fourplexes here are oddly on separate plats. They're on separate tax IDs. This is not one property, and you wouldn't know that because you don't habitually go to properties and pull up the tax plats. If you're going to visit a property, do what? Pull up the tax plats. You're going to finish a basement, you're going to build a house, you're going to try to get a listing, you're going to go see a property, pull up the tax plat. It was very interesting to me that this was not one tax ID. I thought maybe one tax ID and second tax ID, maybe, if not all one. And I can guarantee you when this got built by the same owner and the same builder. And somebody was smart enough to subdivide it so that all four fourplexes could be sold separately. So here's the early part of my career. You ready? Yes. Yep. Aunt and uncle, dear friend from Southern California, which were my parents' friends, my parents. Went and found a property like this and took it to my sphere of influence and convinced them that I'd be a great property manager and told them why I could raise the rents, how I'd take care of the property, and off we'd go. And I managed these properties for several years. It's the first place that I started managing properties. Cut my teeth here. I lived in a little condo over by Brigham Young University, and I'd zip down here and I'd collect the rents and I mowed the lawn. I took care of all the sites. I did the painting. I did any tear out, any light carpentry work. I did all of that. I cut my teeth. And I showed these owners what? What did I show these guys? That I know how to manage it. And one of the biggest pain points people have that own multifamily properties is what? Management. You've heard my saying, what is it? I don't know what's worse, managing something yourself or working with a property management company. I don't know which one is more evil. One of them is more evil though, right? So unbelievable opportunity here. Well, while I'm here for years and I'm mowing the lawn and I'm doing the sidewalks with the snow, with a shovel, I noticed this lot across the street. So this, by the way, we transacted multiple times. I made lots of profit here. I was charging 3 times an hour. I was mowing lawns at BYU for $4.75 an hour. When I quit and came here and charged 12 bucks an hour to do their work here. And I thought I was rich. I really did. I was 23 years old. I had bought a condo. Seller financed it, had private capital as a down, had a roommate that paid more than the mortgage. My car was paid for. I had one half of the utility bills at my condo. So 12 bucks an hour felt pretty cool. This is where I got my license. I got my real estate license here. This guy right here bought the last fourplex that we saw. He was my first phone call. So guys, you can become your own economy. You can become the reason people want to do more business. Let me say that again. You can become the reason people want to become more business, not to have more units. This guy is really wealthy, and for him to add another fourplex was a nothing burger. And if it was a nuisance for him at all to work with me on this fourplex, he would say what? I don't want another one. I don't want another one. It runs right. It's perfect. It's clear. How many properties does this guy end up with? 6. I got commissions on all of them. People are asking me, dude, you're a 24-year-old realtor. You look 18. I always looked younger than I was. How exactly is it that you're selling and buying all these duplexes, fourplexes, and eightplexes? How do I see your name on all these properties? Guys that were 20, 30 years in the business were asking me this. And I was like, I didn't think or conceive that they wouldn't run their business this way. Why wouldn't you become your own economy? Why wouldn't you become something bigger than yourself with the 5 laws of leverage? Nobody's answering that. So anyways, great property, multiple profits, ended up selling it to this guy. By the way, 3 of these properties are still owned by the groups that owned them when I stopped managing this in 2002. This property is in a different name over here. Pretty interesting, right? One of my agents, 15 years later, would have been, no, 20 years later, one of my agents who did a lot of business with, that I trained in a lot of ways, listed this property for sale and didn't call me. And by the time we found it, it was under contract. I said to him, dude, help a brother out. Why aren't you calling me? He's like, yeah, I didn't really think about it. So someone else beat us to the property and someone else is enjoying the townhomes. Stay on the properties, follow the zoning, create lists of open parcels in your city, and stay with them over a period of years. Create a farm. That's the way you find deals like this. Zoning changes, cities change, city council members get voted out or retire, Lots of things can happen. What's the big push in most of the cities right now? The lack of housing. Lack of housing because of what? There's a dearth of units everywhere. In fact, the state legislature is putting pressure on cities that all of them have to have affordable housing. And the cities want to see affordable housing in areas that fall under 3 categories. What are they? Rural? They will consider multifamily in multiple categories. The 3 principal ones we want to look for on today's tour are what? Areas that need infill, urban renewal, and redevelopment. We say that again, infill, urban renewal, and redevelopment. This is infill. This is the very definition of an infill. Do they want to do more business, and is it profitable for them? Let me say that again. Do they want to do more business, and is it profitable for them? Now, I called this guy. He was my very first call. I said, I got 15 clients. I got a new property. It's literally 400 yards as a crow flies from your property here at 755 South. 400 yards away. All brick fourplex, storage sheds, quiet street, great neighborhood. And I can get it to you for $245. And he said, man, I would love another unit. What's the down payment? That's the first thing he asked me, what's the down payment? You're gonna be about 60 grand, 65,000. He goes, yeah, that's not a problem. Tell me the numbers. And I said, well, I gotta make it clear to you, I'm buying this property and I'm gonna close it and be the owner. And if you don't wanna buy it, I may keep it. He goes, okay, what's your price? What was your price? What do you say? What's your price? What do you say? That's confidential. You'll have to sign a non-disclosure. That doesn't work very well, does it? What's your, in fact, I used to write this in my contract. So when he wrote a contract from me to buy that fourplex, I used to write in, buyer beware, Michael P. Watson is a licensed agent in the state of Utah in business to make as large a profit as possible. That's line 1 on my addendum. I noticed none of you wrote that down. That's line 1. So what are they seeing when they see that? I said to him, his name was John. I said, John, I got a good deal. I got a really good deal, but that's part of what I do. That's part of my business. I'm calling you first. The market value is $250. I'm at $245. If the numbers make sense to you, I would expect you to move forward. If the numbers don't make sense to you, I would expect you to tell me no. By the way, I brought the other listings in the area. There's 2 other fourplexes in the whole city of Springville, and the one's at $275 and one's at $265. And I'm offering you this one for $245. And yes, I'm making a profit, and yes, I will take care of this like I've taken care of your other properties. And he said, what? Write it up.
You should say yes.
Write it up. Write it up. Now, if I was smart, which I wasn't, that $80,000, I would have made him put an $80,000 down. He and I would have been 50-50 partners. And on a 165 purchase, a 245 purchase, I have 80,000 in equity, but he puts another 80,000 down. Now we're 50-50 owners in a $245,000 duplex that we owe what on? What's 165 minus 80? So we owe less than $100,000 on a fourplex. And I'm a 50-50 partner without a dollar out of my pocket. Most of you think you can't do real estate because you don't have any money. You don't lack money, you lack guts, you lack ambition, you lack aggressiveness, you lack intensity, you lack enthusiasm. You don't lack money. Gosh, you could become your own economy if you chose to. Do you see what I'm saying here? I created $80,000 out of thin air by raising the rents and finding a distressed seller. And working with a Schedule C. We always like these short snippets, right? Guys, if you're unwilling to attach emotion and enthusiasm to knowledge and curiosity, it will wane immediately. You say that again. One of the ways to have a super memory and to have a super recall is to attach emotion and enthusiasm to information. And doing that creates an opportunity whereby you can learn a lot more, do a lot more, and grow a lot faster. So if you're not excited to hear something, why would I give it to you? Seriously, why would I give it to you? I'm throwing my pearls. Let me get back here. I'm throwing my pearls before the swine right here. Give yourselves a quick round of applause.
Let's go, baby. Here we go.
So this Payson house that I went in and got the the duplex certificate on where the agent said this is not a duplex, I'll tell you which one we used first. So there was a basement that was obviously finished at a different time than the upstairs. So it was the upstairs was one vintage, the downstairs was another vintage. Anyone ever seen that before? You gotta learn. Is the sheetrock different upstairs than the basement? Is there a walk-in to the basement that wasn't there when the house was built? And these are the first things that trigger the first thing, which is building permit. So these guys can go back 100 years on their building permits. So I went to the city and said, this is a legal duplex. And she goes, you're the 19th person to come down here. And I said, what to her? What'd I say? You're the 19th person to come down here. We're getting tired of this. This is not a duplex. And I said, what? I will be the end of all your visits. I promise. So I started on the list. And this was the fourth thing that I asked for, but I'll tell it to you first. I said, I want to pull up a building permit record for this property from its inception. So the house was built in 1914, and it was that vintage. But here we go. Here comes a building permit in 1954. And in 1954, it's to finish the basement. And there's the address, the homeowner's name, and next to that, it says what? Duplex. Duplex. So she goes, not a duplex, not a duplex, not a duplex, not a duplex. Can you hand me? And I was good friends with the planner, and they didn't like me because I just came in and had my way with them, right? So I knew the law, and I did my paperwork. So I had gone in to meet with him on another property. I asked him about that. He goes, that's not a duplex, Mike. Went out to the desk, not a duplex, Mike. Pulled the building permits, says duplex on the building permit. I walk back into his office and say, what?
Boom, it's a duplex.
He looks at it, and he goes like this. Have a seat. Turns, this is before the major computer age, right? Turns to his computer, types up a duplex certificate.
That's it, huh?
It's a law. It was built as a duplex. You gonna say it's not a duplex now? So that's one of 5 permits, building permits. If any of the building permits say the word duplex or fourplex or multifamily or apartments or any of those things, they're stuck, man. They are stuck.
Once that's committed to being that, I mean, there can't be any change to reverse that. It's kind of
well, it's an interesting dichotomy from there forward, which we'll talk about. Some cities are wiser than others. Payson was not one of the wiser cities. Spanish Fork or Provo was, because we had that in Provo, and I told that story. I'll tell it to you again really quickly. We found a house in Provo that had separate meters, separate entrances, separate gas, garbage cans, and we went in and the city said it was not a legal duplex. So I went through the list of 5, and number 2, which I'll give you right now, write this down, number 2 is precedence. If you can prove that a property's been operated as a duplex, typically the number for most cities is 20 years. Okay. So if you have 20 years or more, then you have a legal precedence. If it's been a duplex, they can't unnecessarily take that away from you. So I went through the other things. Building permits didn't say, went through the other 3 items. And I said, well, the owners, who are the kids, mom and dad used to live there, they died, and they're selling it. They said it's been a duplex continuously for the last 30 years. And that's one of your standards here at Provo City. I had read up on the code. And they said, okay, well, let's take a look. Well, Provo City was the power company at that time. And they pulled up the power records for the last 20 years to see if they were matching names or not. So if I'm living upstairs and I don't have a tenant downstairs, then both meters are going to be in whose name? My name. If for 20 years it's Watson and Maddox and then Candlish and so on and so forth, then they say this has been operated as a duplex for 20 years. And they went back and looked at it, pulled it up, sat down with me, and we went through, and there was a 2-year gap where the upstairs owner was on the utility records, and the downstairs was the same utility name. So he goes, well, you lost your chance. You thought you were going to get it here, but you lost your chance. And I was like, what? They're like, you lost your chance. And boy, back then, that really got to me. And in my head, I said, what? I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you. So I leave, because these guys told me it had been operated continuously for 20 years as a separate legal residence. So I called the son who was in charge of the sale and said, what the heck, dude? You told me this was continuous 20 years, and there's 2 years from this year to this year, which was only 2 and 3 years ago. 2 years ago, or 3 years ago to 1 year ago, both the meters were in your parents' names. And it was your mom at that time because their dad had passed. And she goes, oh, that's easy. We hired a nurse who lived in the basement and she got rent as a part of her expense for taking care of my mother. We had a live-in nurse. So she didn't pay rent and we paid for the utilities. Called the nurse, signed an affidavit, took it into the city. Let's go! Don't tell me what I can't do. You're not in charge of what I can't do. You do not adjudicate what I can and can't do, right? There's a whole other layer of opportunities here.